Memphis is a confused and shocked city tonight. No one can believe what has happened.
Dr. Martin Luther King,
39 years old and a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and the leader of the nonviolent civil rights movement in the United States,
was shot and was killed tonight
in Memphis, Tennessee.
She doesn't care if I live or die.
June of 1967, and was in my first year of graduate study at the University of Iowa. I'm Dr. Ted McDaniel, Professor Emeritus of African American Music and Jazz at The Ohio State University. Proud to be a member of the King Arts Complex. On April 4th, coincidentally, I had just come from BSU, Black Student Union organization meeting, and of course, we hadn't gotten a word yet. And I was living in the dormitory. Got back to the dorm. I went up to my room, opened the door, and my roommate Larry said, "You haven't heard." And I said, "Haven't heard? What are you talking about? I haven't heard." And that's when he told me. That's when I got the shocking news. I remember just taking a seat. I asked him a few questions, and of course, by that time, things were all over television. You know, campus people were just running wild.
April the 4th, 1968. It's a day that's burnt in my memory because of two things. The assassination of Dr. King, and I had to go into work. I hadn't planned on going to work. I was getting ready to go on a date, see one of the young ladies back in the day. My name is Bert Castle. I'm the executive director of the Martin Luther King Breakfast Committee, which hosts and organizes the annual Dr. Martin Luther King birthday breakfast at the Convention Center each year on MLK Day. And mind you, I'm in high school at this time. I was at home and I got a call, and it was Mary. Mary is a friend of mine who worked at a Asian restaurant. She washed dishes. And I had a part-time job there too, and she called me from home and asked me to come into work. But when she called me, I said, "Mary, what's wrong?" I can tell in her voice. So because she was very, very upset because I thought someone in the family had died or that she was ill or something like that. And she said they killed him. That Dr. King is dead, has been assassinated.
At this time, I have the honor to present to you the moral leader of our nation, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Years later, the Negro still is not free. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Had a great impact on me because if it weren't for Dr. King, a lot of the opportunities that I was privy to wouldn't have happened. As I traveled my journey through life from high school to college and so forth, I saw doors that were cracked open because of Dr. King. And I started working in the field. It required me to travel and go from one site to another site, different locations across the country. And there were very, very few minorities, and the company was anxious to find minorities to even things out, to reshuffle, the balance. That I see the impact of Dr. King, because if it weren't for Dr. King, I may not have been there, even though I was qualified.
He is responsible for what is good about America today. I don't think there is any one single figure who believed and demonstrated with his political will and his political activism how you go about attacking and solving a problem. And so Dr. King was a figure who became the drum major of a movement. I only had black teachers. I didn't have a white teacher from kindergarten through 12th grade until I got to Morehouse College. I graduated from high school in 1963. So I was witness to the debates, the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, 2 important pieces of legislation that changed America. And it took Dr. Martin Luther King, and he had a lot of assistants. He wasn't the only leader, but he was the most significant one. He was the drum major out front in the face of a movement that changed, that forced America to change and to come to grips with America's own cancer. And that is the cancer of oppression, racism, and the cancer of discrimination. To say, hey, let's cut this out, let's get rid of this for everybody's sake. Not just simply to open the doors for black people, but to free the minds and the hearts of white people as well. So I give Dr. King credit for being the conductor.
Dr. King has been a big impact in America and across the world, because on MLK Day, it is not only celebrated in all 50 states now, but it's celebrated across the globe. And we always have to remember that no matter what the obstacle, no matter what the hardship is, no matter what the view you perceive to see in the future, you need to keep moving forward. And that's the theme for the 35th annual MLK breakfast here in Columbus, Ohio, is to keep moving forward. And Dr. King is like a compass for you. You know, there's a fighter jet that costs millions of dollars to build, and it has all kind of technology and computer systems in it to navigate it and to keep it oriented on the direction it's going. And also in that cockpit there's a small compass, and it's there because if all that gadgetry fails, the compass still points true north, so that the pilot can sense a sense of the direction. That's what should be in each of us, that small compass of pointing true north, the right thing to do, the right direction to go, the right things to say to one another. That compass that we have is what King put in each of us, that sense of true north, the true way to treat your fellow brother.
People can question strategies and talk about, the Black Power movement, which came about when it needed to come about, and the contributions of Stokely Carmichael and Malcolm X, and so many other foot soldiers all contributed. But Dr. King was the biggest face, and I think the biggest leadership, because it was hard to argue with his morality. He spoke in global terms about all of humanity. He was always inclusive, and he had a greater vision for this country, for America. This man was killed at 39. Didn't even live to 40. His life was just getting to a point where he had a little wear and tear on his tire, but he got eliminated. He was killed. He was assassinated. We talk about he died. Yeah, he died because he was killed. We must remember that. We must remember that the worst aspects of America led to his death. And yet, the best aspects of what America could become, I think in large part, is because of him.
So you got to meet Dr. King in person?
Oh, yeah. I got a chance to shake his hand. I don't know what it's like to be in the presence of a king, or certainly in the presence of the Messiah. But for me, the closest thing to that was in the space with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The man was so powerful. He was absolutely special in every way. Such a role model. He was almost noble. I mean, if you want to be uplifted spiritually, psychologically, intellectually, there's so much depth. And he had the amazing ability to relate to all people. He was as comfortable talking to just good old working class people, poor people. He was a brother to all. It didn't matter who you were. If you stood for something positive, then a part of his legacy, if I may say something about today, this country is not in good shape, not just because of the partisan divide. It's the reasons for the partisan divide, and the reasons for a lot of people in America wanting to take America back to the dark ages. The country will not survive like that. It will not survive. We need to continue the struggle. We're fighting for social justice, for everybody should have the same opportunities. That's what Dr. King wanted to see. That's why he was in Memphis. He had a concern about them and how they had been treated. So Dr. King lives on forever and ever. I can't even imagine just world. We are so fortunate to get that without saying how Martin Luther King contributed to the fulfillment of this nation's so-called dream and promise for all.
In memory of 50 years since the untimely death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the King Arts Complex presented an art celebration honoring his life and legacy. Organized with community partners from across Central Ohio, with support from PNC Arts Alive, the Ohio Arts Council, and the National Performance Network. The partners with venues throughout Columbus, we hosted nearly a dozen unique events. Programs featured simulcasts and live streaming to reach local, national, and international audiences. The King Arts Complex and the Short North Stage commemorated the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination with playwright Katori Hall's gripping reimagination of the last night of Dr. King's life. While a storm rages outside his hotel room in Memphis, a mysterious stranger arrives, forcing Dr. King to confront his destiny and his legacy to his people, magical and haunting. This was a special memorial performance that took place on Tuesday, April 3rd, the eve of the anniversary of Dr. King's death. We reflected upon 50 years since Dr. King's assassination. We invited everyone across the globe to participate in 60 Seconds for Peace. At the exact time of 6:01 p.m. Central Standard Time, we asked that all participants take a moment for peace and goodwill to mark the exact moment 50 years earlier when the world had to move forward without Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The observation of 60 Seconds for Peace takes place during the Music for the Oppressed program.